Good morning and gratitude, divines and divinettes. It's Bree India. And what's today? April 26th? Yeah. I wanted to use this filter because I just wanted to. I like it. But anyway, I did a recent post about narcissistic parents and in general narcissistic guardians, because narcissism is something I've been already looking into for years once I was able to learn about it in therapy. And I realized that ultimately when I chose to start self journeys, the purpose of me starting self journeys was because I realized that I wanted to learn more about myself without needing to be attached to so many other things. And before I even got to the healing part of healing my self-parenting phase, there was a lot of other self-journeys that I had taken for my healing processes. And I look at being healed in one area as being an accomplishment, but not as a end to continuing my healing process. Because for me, like everyone else, we all have our own layers of trauma and our own layers of ourselves that we have to learn and identify with. And before even reaching and understanding my purpose in different ways that I am and that I am becoming, it was always an urge to understand more about like my emotions towards life and the confusion I had towards life. So thank you, Esmir, for letting me repost your post about narcissism and narcissistic parents, because in the process of first allowing myself to be okay with being alone, right, it was like I was afraid to be alone because I didn't want to accept certain things that just were the reality of my life, so far. As I stated in my last post comment, when I left home from my parents and was kicked out when I was 17, it was like later on that my dad had said, "Oh, you were always welcome back," right? And I was like, that's not... Good morning. And I was like, just because I was welcome back doesn't mean that I understood why I wasn't accepted in the first place to be who I was, and why I had to be kicked out instead of, worked with. And when I was in relationships after leaving home, what I realized was that I always would try to see if those men would work with me. Like I was trying to test them out and see if, after saying we love each other, if they would be able to still accept me for who I am, the way that I'm willing to accept them for who they are. And it was always like me trying to test the person's loyalty to the relationship, but to themselves. But unbeknownst to me, because I was understanding that I was still trying to learn more about myself throughout even being boyfriend girlfriends with people. We all do that. Well, we should anyway. So I was like, where I am today, obviously, I healed from projecting on people in relationships. And I'm choosing the celibacy journey, the self-decluttering season, which I'm still in currently with my self-journeys. And last year I started the self-parenting. And the self-parenting wasn't to object or reject my parents' parenting in life. It was so that I could be able to learn more about my ways, so that, and that was a future thing. I was thinking about my children. I don't have children yet, but I was married, and at the time that I was married, it was important for me to understand how I was treating him, but also how I was being treated. And that doesn't make me be, dual-minded. That just makes me be well-rounded to me, because I don't just think about how I'm treating a person. I think about how I'm being treated in relationships, in any relationship, friendship, or whatever. So in this self-decluttering season, I've been able to really understand the part where I at first mentioned observing, forgiving, and accepting things and people, because I love my family. Yes, I've been away from them for a long time. And the first time I was kicked out of home, it was my duty to choose to just stay away, because I was so hurt, and I just needed to understand my pain. And it took years, because in the midst of trying to understand my pain, I was like kind of living in certain toxicities that I wouldn't have known that it was toxic, because I was a teenager. And then I was early in my 20s. I was enjoying my life. I couldn't wait to get the hell on and just, when I got to Atlanta, I literally was in a new energy. Although I had like secondary parents in Atlanta. And how do I feel now? How I feel now about what? Just like my life, or just today in general? And yeah, but pretty much that first time getting away from home at 17, it was like a lot of my actions were just rebellious, because I wanted to prove something to my dad and to my mom and to myself, but more so than myself, to other people, about, the independence that I had, and accepting that I was independent, and accepting that I wanted to know more about myself. You said so how I feel about life right now. I feel free about my life. I love that. I love being alone right now. Like, I actually am enjoying being alone, but not to the point where it's a bitterness. Like, I'm okay with accepting new relationships. I wasn't a people person at first. So with life now, I just feel good. I feel great. I feel free. I feel abundant. I feel evolving. I hope that answers your question. But yeah, so pretty much going into, my 20s and being on my own 2 feet and doing so, and getting into the military and having the military shape me in certain ways, and then having to kind of break out of that when I got out of the military. It was a lot of things. And like I said, I'm not going to sit here and talk about my journeys all in my life, but I'm going to be, having all of this. And I've been writing for a while now. So I have a book called 20 Divine coming out, in which will it'll be detailing everything about my decade of my 20s, how it went for me. And, being 29 right now, I'm loving that I'm at this point where I just am mentally in control, and I'm embracing being alone. And I'm choosing that when I do have children, it was never a rush in the first place, but when I do have my children, it'll be that I'm bringing them into paradise. I'm bringing them into a paradise that I didn't see for myself. Even though I was a very bubbly child and I was free-spirited, there were constantly things that were trying to bind me to problematic and toxic ways. And thank you, Patty Freddy. I appreciate that. And when I say I'm alone, and I'm okay with being alone, though, I'm not saying like I feel lonely, though. Just to say that, I'm just saying like I love my family from afar, and I've always loved them even when I was with them. But I had to learn that when it comes to family, you have to be willing to see the generational curse or cycle or trauma that was passed down from one parent to the next. And hello. And I just was like, I needed to release that whole being afraid of how they would feel about my truth and how I feel about growing up. Especially expressing this to my parents. It was hard, because they just felt like I was attacking them. But I was just being honest about what I realized about the truth as an adult. Because as an adult, we learn certain things, like from the simplest things to the biggest things. Like, I had seen a video the other day of this girl who had got her wisdom teeth pulled out, and she was in the store crying because her mom was buying frozen lasagna. And she was like, "You've been buying frozen lasagna all this time? I thought you were making it from scratch." And I was just dying laughing because I'm like, that is exactly how I felt in my healing journey when I was seeing things about my parents in the midst of trying to see who I would be as a parent, because I did analyze my life a lot based on my parents. And so, in my upbringing, and my guardians, not just my parents, but like my guardians, people that I looked up to and people that I let be mentors in my life outside of my own biological mother and father. Moving to Georgia at such a young age, I had people that I looked at like my godparents or like, aunties and uncles and stuff like that. And even in the military, that's how it was. So it was like, I appreciate you, Petty Freddy. Good friends, man. But yeah, like, I was just like, at the end of the day, I can't blame those people forever about things that I'm not choosing to recognize about myself. Because once you're an adult, you can't really be like still holding on to blaming the guardians of your childhood. And then even now, as 29, I'm working with my parents, from a distance, for them to be who they are without feeling like I'm trying to project back onto them. Like, because that's been habitual. Like, because I've been so outspoken as a person, not just as a child, but as an adult, I've become more outspoken because I always felt like I had to defend myself and who I am against people who try to project and judge based on their own issues or their own feelings or their own ways of seeing me. Or sometimes it be projecting based on how they see themselves. And I don't like to project who I am on other people because I feel like that's unfair. Like, everybody is going through their life at different phases. They're at different phases. They're at different levels. They're at different processes. They're in different processes. So for me, it was layers I had to break down. And I didn't want to wait years into my marriage to be like, what did I not heal before I was married? Or what did I not heal before I buried this child? And I wanted to cleanse my womb. I wanted my womb to be as healthy as possible. I feel like there was unhealthiness to my womb with all of the toxicity of my energy and of my my health habits, the way that I would treat my body. I don't feel like when it comes to, smoking cannabis and drinking liquor and doing those things, I don't feel like those things needed to be deleted out of my life at a time forever. I just did that because I wanted to regain control over my life and not be using substances like that for my stress, because I was a person who used those things as, all right, it was a lot today. Let me pick up this cigarette, or let me, grab this bottle of liquor or wine or whatever. I don't do that anymore in that way. If I get back into, and when I get back into drinking and, tapping into different substances, it won't be abused, is what I'm saying. Like, I didn't want to be abusive to those things. And that's a part of my self-decluttering season, is just, while being celibate, I'm abstinent from other things, not just sex, but, I'm abstinent from different substances that I use to cover up the moment that I needed to just sit still with myself and see why I was in pain or why I was hurting at that time. And that's what I've been doing throughout, this time since my rebirth. When I was 27 and when, I asked for divorce, it wasn't because I didn't love him. It was because I was trying more to understand how to love myself. And loving myself is more important to me right now, because I need the time to be able to allow myself to just embrace that, but not because I'm afraid of being around people either. But I want to make sure I'm ready to be around people again in ways where I'm not just like snapping on them because of little things that they do to themselves. Like, I get agitated when I see people do themselves wrong, or when they talk down on themselves, or when they feel like they're obligated to me in a certain way. Like, my exes, I told all my exes, please never in your life feel or say like you need me. Like, just like I don't tell men I need them, I don't want them telling me they need me. It's a difference between wanting and needing a person in your life. And I feel like when a person is obsessive with trying to find love outside of themselves, they lose more of themselves in those situations and relationships. We could talk about it a little bit. So yeah, I pretty much am at a point now where it's like, with the childhood trauma stuff, having unconditional love was starting with me saying no to certain things and removing myself from things. Not just because of feeling like those things were attacking me or fear of what was going to happen next, but more so because I was like realizing that I wasn't the type of person to want to heal under people. And I didn't really recognize that I was healing. So like this morning after my morning salah, I was realizing and decluttering my like online stuff, I found a text message thread between, yes, I have set some hard boundaries for real. But yeah, I had a text message thread with a spiritualist that I had paid years ago to help me with learning how to do cleansings. And even though I was raised Christian, as an adult, I started to get into understanding, the horoscopes, astrology, and all those types of things. It just gravitated to me, and maybe that's something connected to the ancestors that I have. But I was just naturally a type of person to go on YouTube and, just watch, like, I call tarot soap operas, like my soap operas, because not all tarot is, my story. But I watch it because I learned a lot from the different spiritual practices that exist and how to obtain my own gifts, and that's how I learned to understand clairvoyancy and understand like our spiritual bodies are capable of evolving in ways where we can increase our intuition and we can increase our ability to understand our spirit. And when we understand ourselves, it's easier to understand others. That's how I view it. And that's why Self Journeys is not something about being selfish. It's about understanding that you cannot people please so much in life. You have to learn that doing for others is something that comes after you have become stable and doing things for yourself. And that's just like, for example, teaching children something that you don't understand yet. That's like pointless, because now when they grow believing this thing you taught them, you don't know how to explain to them what it was that you taught them in the first place, because you never actually believed in that thing. Or, allowing children to be led so much by society because that's what you depend on. That's something that as a person, I don't want to bring that into the parenthood of my journeys. Now, I'm not telling anybody how they should be a parent. People going to do what they want to do. But I'm just saying that my self journeys I've been dedicated to this because I really cherish the idea of being a mother someday. And I really cherish the idea of wifehood. I want the person that I'm journeying with in a spousal relationship to understand themselves and really love themselves unconditionally, because of knowing how it feels to be loved with conditions and to be taught that you should love others with conditions. Now, I do believe that it's a condition to think that somebody has to love themselves unconditionally first. That's a condition in itself. However, I'm still in a healing phase of really internalizing and digesting self-unconditional love, because there's so much to it and there's so many different ways to look at it, but there's only one way to be of it, and that's what I'm focused on the most. We have to rightly divide truth. Studying brings awareness, and with awareness comes understanding, and that brings prosperity. That's a beautiful statement. Dewan 1AL1. All right. I appreciate you. That is a beautiful comment. And that's the truth. Like, like I said, Self Journeys is Allah, unity, peace, love, and truth. And like the other day I was mentioning that connecting with Allah to me is like we all take different ways to get to New York or Canada. The bus, the train, the plane, a car. I actually talked to somebody in the lift the other day about this. But we all gonna get to New York. We going to one place. So that's what Allah is, getting to God. It takes different paths, different times, different, some obstacles may come for different people's journey there, but we're all trying to reach the most divine part of ourselves, our higher self. And our higher self is connected to the universe and creator of all galaxies, all things that exist. And so when I think of life in that way and beyond the seven skies, that's Allah to me in my self journeys. And then unity, like I was saying the other day as well, is the union first of your mind and your heart. A unity of people is something that is a bigger picture, yes. But if we're not able to align with ourselves, within ourselves, align our physical body with our spiritual body, align our mind and our heart, our soul and our spirit, these things need to be unified of ourselves. And that's how I view becoming whole with yourself, aligning your masculine and feminine energy in whatever way that means to you. And even though you were taught one way, you can recondition yourself to believe and understand things based on your own experiences in life and what you've allowed yourself to experience and grow through. And even if you're a person who can observe well, you don't have to necessarily be the one who experiences things and has hard lessons. You might be the type of person who can see something and observe well enough to learn from it just by seeing it and just by hearing it. And if you're teachable, it's easier for you to learn and digest things anyway and make better decisions for yourself based on what you've seen around you. So that's a way that I view unity. And then unity after one has become whole of unified energy with themselves, then unifying with others it becomes easy, because you'll be able to understand people more when you understand yourself as a human, as a person, and as a being. And so that's Allah, unity, and then peace. Having peace, I say happy inwards because there's a lot of chaos in the world. Like, we can't control every little thing going on outside of ourselves, as we all know. So when it comes to having peace, I do feel like that's something that you have to have within yourself first, because if you don't find and go through a journey of self-peace, then you're going to always, yet again, just like love, be seeking it outside of yourself. And you're going to be bothered when it's not manifesting outside of you, not realizing that you've ignored that you need to first have that fully vested within yourself. Have a regimen for yourself to always come back to you when something or someone is trying to take you out of character or trying to break your peace. Because being disturbed is easy when you are a person who is working and you're focused on things that you want to do for your purpose. And if you're not really sure of your purpose, or if you're in your purpose but you're still being taught different things about it in your process, you will have tests. That's just what comes with being a human. Like, the tests of our lives are not meant to break us. They're meant to shape us in our own ways. They're meant to be there for us to break cycles and curses on our bloodline that we've allowed ourselves to believe were traditions or were meant to happen those ways. Like, it's okay to look at something and be like, hold up, just because 100 people in my family at the family reunion prove that they do this and think this way, doesn't mean that because I don't think that way, I'm wrong. Like, it's okay to think outside of the box and accept that you do that, and be the one who chooses to just go right instead of the left path that's always been taught to you. It's okay to make certain decisions to step into your power. And that's Allah, unity, peace, and love. Love, before I speak about power, it is intertwined with love. And when I say power and stepping into your power, that is stepping into the love that you have for yourself. That is stepping into the greatness that you are meant to be. If you haven't already been on your path of, being guided through your greatness, understand the spirit guide of yourself and the spirit guides around you, whether they are in flesh or in your ancestral bloodline, or they're friends, or they're people of other people's family. Like, I recognized my spirit guides when I was meeting people throughout life that would just randomly there were spiritual people, or there were people who did readings and stuff, but these are just one form of different spirit guides I had. I have different types of spirit guides. We all do. But in the journeys I've had because of religion, I was told to think a certain way about tarot, about people doing readings, about psychic mediums, about even having my own psychic abilities and trying to find ways to block it out. Like, I'm wrong for seeing this happen before it happened. And I wouldn't talk about it because I was fearful of how I would be viewed. I was fearful of what people would think of me and different things like that, for being able to understand things like that, or for being able to see things before they actually occur, and then having a good intuition to be able to discern different situations and things. And once I was able to really step into those parts and step into loving those parts of me, instead of denying them or shunning them because I was told that it was wrong to think out of the box like that, or because I was taught that I don't need to think like that and I don't know anything. Like, of course I don't know everything, but it's okay to have certain wisdom and knowledge. Like, there's nothing wrong with saying that I didn't know something and I was teachable, so I learned it. And that's what happens throughout life. And when I say I'm healed in certain areas because I went through that process diligently to heal that thing. And then I'm in another healing phase. And I allow myself to phase through things in life and my personal self journeys. And when it comes to love as well, unconditional love is a love that allows me to look at even my faults and my flaws and embrace them. Look at how I judge others and embrace them and accept them for who they are, and not be so cold towards people's existence. Like, everybody is not meant to be the same. We all have different souls. Even if we have a soul tribe, that doesn't mean that all of us is one body now. Like, no. Majority of us, especially people who understand like the twin flame journey, and it's not just about, you know, the cutesiness of it. It's about first realizing that your first twin spirit is yourself. Like, you have to find the other half of who you are and become whole to really find your true twin flame. And then you are able to evolve into finding a person, or being hunted by a person who is seeking someone with the soul aligned of themselves the way that they align their souls with themselves. And we meet different people and have different soulmate relationships because we are meant to learn with people. We're not here alone. Like Petty Freddy was just saying, we're not here alone realistically, but it's okay to accept being alone and releasing codependency on growth because of other people. Like, for me, I got into relationships and I would just be in those relationships, but I was truly like unconsciously like judging people in those relationships, because there were still parts of me connected to my father lineage in which I would be like just very like focused on and stuff like that. And second, so going forward, I wanted to be able to allow myself to understand my connection with my father and how it was affecting me, you know, as an adult, to try so much to prove to him that I could be on my own and that I could do things alone and that I was, you know, independent and this and that. And then being in the military, trying to prove stuff to people. And the whole time I was losing bits and bits of myself because I was trying to prove so much of myself to things outside of me. And I needed to regather myself and my power and my love for myself and re-identify with myself. And I let a lot of things go so that I could do that. And that's Allah, unity, peace, love. And then there's truth. And truth ties everything together, because at the end of the day, I needed to be truthful with myself. And I needed to be truthful about my journey and my life and where I am so far. And embracing the truth about what people seen of me as well. What friends would say I was like. I had friends say, oh, you're impulsive, or you're this, or you're that. And I used to be like, no, I'm not. And, you know, just real responsive in a very like negative kind of way. But those were part of the people who are like my spirit guides. Friends I've had, female and male, and guys in relationships. They were a part of that spirit guide journey. They were a part of me learning who I was and recognizing the error of my ways. And it took time for me to just delete myself from those people so that I could accept and embrace what they were telling me and what I wasn't able to see, obviously, about myself. And I'll talk more about this, but I just wanted to get on here to kind of piggyback off of the post I just posted. It was a repost about narcissistic parenting. And it's not an attack on my parents or parents in general. It's just a part of truth. So live in your truth and unconditionally love you. And this is Bree India. I thank you all for tuning in this morning. And have a blessed day. Peace and blessings be upon you. In Allah, unity, peace, love, and truth.